The anime begins with Hayato being taken to a floating academy called Little Garden. As soon as he got off the plane, a banner was unfurled and two girls started calling to him, as they could already sense his aura. He escaped from the girls and reached the opening ceremony venue, where other students were waiting outside. When he tried to ask for directions, everyone surrounded him and began begging for autographs. He managed to escape the crowd and hid behind the building to catch his breath, but then was ambushed by a weird guy with white hair. Emil said he was also a new student and offered to be his guide. Inside, Raitia apologized for trying to take a sausage, and Fritz patted her head to remind her she was too short to worry about bowing. When Emil suddenly started trying to rub his arm, Raitia and Fritz thought they were close friends. Moments later, Erica and Lid started the ceremony in the hall before introducing President Clare. At that moment, Noah and Lou entered and apologized for being late, claiming they were looking for Hayato. After Lid told them he had been inside the whole time, Claire told them to pack their things and catch the next flight back to Louisville. Hayato tried to speak, but Emil was already on his feet, telling Claire to stop abusing her power as president. After Hayato asked her to reconsider, she gave them a speech about the importance of being obedient slaves who follow all her orders. Emil kept mocking her. Then Lady reminded everyone that Claire was the Academy's queen, and he retorted by revealing that Hayato had a compatibility score of 100, higher than hers. After Hayato restrained him, Claire asked if he was also against her decision, and he explained the girls were innocent before asking her to spare them. Lid tried to taunt him, but then Claire interrupted her and challenged Hayato to a duel that would determine the fate of Emil and the girls. Before he could think, Emil accepted on his behalf and was somehow certain Hayato would win. After the ceremony, Hayato was with Emil trying to figure out how he could prepare in less than a day. But Emil was one step ahead and said they would go see the Academy's lead researcher on the 100. Charlotte was a nerd who had all her good genes sent to her brain cells instead of her legs. And after she greeted him, Mei started sniffing him and cheerfully offered to clean his sword. After Emil almost ruined her facelift, she showed them Liza, a cousin of ChatGPT, who served the Academy's AI and brought out Hayato's 100. She then showed a clip while explaining that the 100 was what slayers trained at the Academy used to defeat the monsters known as savages. After showing him a clip of Claire, she turned to ask if he had the brain capacity to understand he was fried. After getting her 100, he and Emil changed and went to the Coliseum to test it. Hayato was trying to pay attention to Emil's instructions, but for some reason Emil thought Hayato was looking at his Steve Rogers pre-serum physique. After he absorbed the 100 and activated his suit, Emil revealed he already had his own 100 too and activated it. Hayato was shocked by Emil's 100, and Emil explained it was of the innocence type. But when Hayato started asking more questions, Emil answered by demonstrating his firepower. Hayato blocked the first blast, and Emil praised his defense. But after he prepared for the second shot, Hayato activated his high-speed traits and slammed him into the wall to dodge the shot. Seeing this, Emil was sure he could win and prepared to finish the training. On the way back that night, Hayato saw the messages his sister was leaving and told Emil he only came to the Academy on the condition that she receive the best medical care before running off to the hospital. Moments later, he apologized to Karen and gave her a kiss on the head to make her forget she was upset. The next moment, they heard the door open and two gravity-defying melons that left Hayato stunned entered. Minoru wanted to say that visiting hours were over, and Karen had to pull him out of his already intense obsession with her large breasts. He arrived at his dorm later and opened the door just as Emil was about to get dressed. Emil then threw everything he could until the box nearly cracked Hayato's spine. After waking up on Emil's lap and bumping heads, Hayato asked why he was in the room and found out the weirdo was his roommate. Emil then asked for his torn jacket to fix it, but upon starting to sew, he pricked his finger. The first blood triggered a bad memory from Hayato's past, and his next move was to clean the wound with his saliva. As Emil wondered what else he could clean, after covering up, Hayato explained that he was once involved in a savage attack and had since mastered his mouth skills to help injured people. The next day at the Coliseum, Claire asked if he was sure he was okay with getting beaten up before they both activated their 100s for the duel. While Emil and Luke hoped he could save them from being expelled, Liv began listing the match rules and gave them 15 minutes to get the winning knockout. Claire also felt it necessary to inform everyone that she would not use full-body armament, an ability used by few that allows them to take their 100s to the absolute limit. After basically saying she would go easy on him, Emil showed up to offer support during the game and Erica tried to stop it, but Clare also thought he would need the extra assistance and allowed it. The instant the timer hit 0, Hayato's super speed made him crash into Clare before she could even move. After the dust settled, he took the opportunity to see if the monstrosities on her chest were real. She tried to hide her obvious desire for it and told him to get off. A slight hand movement from him caused sound of happiness to escape her. He immediately apologized for losing control of his arm, but she was already excited and started firing. Before he could dodge one of the shots, she was inches from his face and used an uppercut to affect his digestive system. Emil helped activate a shield just in time to block another shot. Hayato then charged forward with his sword to land a hit, but she easily caught it with her bare hands and sent him back a few hundred steps to safety. After charging his sword, he took off to gain enough distance for an energy shot that was guaranteed to defeat Clare. She blocked it and praised his skills before sending her weapon to blast him out of the sky. After the dust settled, everyone thought he was done for, but then he stood up again. So Clare switched to a buster cannon. As she began charging it, Emil sensed the danger he was in and told him to move. But something was happening to Hayato, which made him deaf to Emil's warnings. The moment the blast occurred, his eyes changed, and he dodged at the last instant before slicing the buster cannon in half and forcing Clare to defend herself as he kept trying to take her down. As soon as she gained some distance, she activated the cannon again and hit him. But then he activated full-body armament. Lid was struggling to understand how he could use it, despite having just gotten his 100, but Clare had no time to figure it out as he blasted her rice balls into the ground. When he moved in for the final strike, she saw her life flash before her eyes and decided to activate her full-body armament. He immediately attacked again. Then, she launched many missiles that pierced through his barrier and left him vulnerable as she activated beast mode with a cannon and hit him with a blast that pierced through the upper atmosphere. After he fell, Emil ran to help him and reminded Clare of how she said she would go easy on him. Charlotte then appeared and explained that the official duel rules voided him, which meant Clare still won. Clare then refused the victory, so they decided it would be a draw. Later that day, Hayato woke up in the infirmary and saw Clare. Then he asked about Emil and the girls, but she had already canceled their expulsion. He didn't remember much of what happened, so she reminded him while asking how he could use such powers in his first official duel. Emil entered and stopped her from interrogating him. Then she left and Emil checked if he was okay. On the way home, Erica noticed Clare's change in mood and asked if she was thinking about his hand on her melons. She tried to deny the obvious, but even Lid noticed and suggested a massage to get it out of her head. The next day, Emil treated Hayato as if he were a new puppy before asking if he wanted to visit the Academy's commercial district and got excited after he agreed. At the Central, shortly after, Hayato began to feel uncomfortable seeing all the attention they were receiving. And Emil made it worse by making him lose aura points by feeding him. Emil then took him to a lover's park, and while showing him around, Hayato could feel the rainbow fever taking over and pushed it away. At that moment, he received a call from Karen, who had just heard about the duel and wanted to see him. After he told her where they were, she arrived shortly after and met Emil. She had to check to make sure he was a boy and went on to explain that Hayato was a dump truck enthusiast, not a sword maniac. After talking with Emil to be sure of his intentions, they watched a performance by Sakura, an idol she was obsessed with. Hayato then promised to take her to one of the concerts, and they continued walking around the district before eventually going to the cafeteria to eat. Emil was trying to win her over with food when Clare appeared with her girls, and Karen immediately started mocking her spring extensions. When she demanded to know who the loudmouth disablee was, a fun-sized otaku said who she was and introduced himself as Chris, Clare's personal assistant. Clare then asked for Hayato's help with the council, and Emil jumped to his defense and reminded them they couldn't force him into anything. The girls then explained it was optional, and Clare said she wanted him to join the selection, a special force under the council, where he would receive orders from Warlon headquarters and participate in real missions to face the savages. Lid explained that their last mission against the savages left them without enough slayers, which is why they were asking him. Emil demanded to participate with him, but they said he was too thin for real fighting. He then tried to challenge Clare, and Lid tried to calm him down, but he challenged her instead and activated his 100. Lid also activated hers and Erica tried to stop her, but she was determined to put Emil in his place. Hayato told Emil it was dangerous to use his blasters with Karen around, so he changed his 100 to match Lid's, which surprised the girls. When they started fighting, Claire stopped Erica from interfering so they could see if Emil had that determination. As soon as the fight started and was looking good, an alert came in. Then Liz stopped fighting him, and they explained that a savage had appeared on the island where Sakura was supposed to perform that night. At that moment, Charlotte appeared and told Claire to take the boys so they could have their first contact with the savages in combat. After arriving at the control room, Mei told them they were dealing with 3 of the savage beasts before telling Chris to get to work. Hayato thought they were forcing Chris into an unpaid internship. Then Charlotte explained that he was their lead analyst with an IQ level that made Tesla look stupid. After Chris showed images of a Class 30 savage, Claire told Charlotte that the plan to take Hayato and Emil on the mission was a bad idea. She decided to personally oversee the efforts to keep the attack contained until reinforcements could arrive from headquarters, and started to leave with Erica and Lid. Hayato stopped Claire and reminded her of the speech she gave them earlier before telling her about the past savage incident that caused his amnesia. Claire still didn't like the idea, so Charlotte said it was actually Liza who recommended taking Hayato and Emil on the mission. Upon hearing that, she decided to let them participate in the mission. Then everyone boarded a plane to the island and explained the mission plan. Emil wanted to know why they weren't going together. Then Claire explained that they were supposed to observe the elimination of the first one to avoid having their neurons wasted on their first mission. As soon as they entered the island's airspace, Erica jumped out and eliminated the sight of the savage before Claire and Lid joined her and activated their hundreds. After Erica held it in place, Claire used the buster cannon to expose the monster's core, and Lid used her drill to destroy it. Claire then told Emil and Hayato to wait for landing before starting, but Emil loved an adrenaline rush and told Hayato to jump. Before Hayato could think, he pushed him out of the plane, and they both activated their hundreds. They replicated what the girls did, but he managed to break the core after the first strike. After Emil saved him from the savage's attack, he tried again, but still couldn't cut through and was thrown to the ground. Emil then used an arrow from his 100 to hit the core and blew up the creature. By that time, Erica had tied up the Class 30 and gave an opening to Lid, but then the creature struck through the air before using Erica's chains to throw her against a roof. Seeing the girls halfway across the way, Hayato and Emil wanted to help, but Claire stopped them so she could rescue their dignity as council members on their own. After activating full-body armament, she charged the buster cannon for a shot, but the savage came prepared with a throat cannon and canceled her attack. She tried to use it again, but the cannon was out of energy from the duel with Hayato and left her vulnerable to another shot from the savage. Luckily, Hayato activated his armament in time and saved her, but she started to feel hot when his hand was on her breast again. When he landed on a roof, the savage began charging again, so he tried to dodge. But then Erica saw an airport in a line of fire and told him there were still people trying to evacuate from there. When the creature fired, Claire used a barrier to block it before telling him to combine his powers with hers to counter the shot. After they redirected the shots, he set her down and helped her stand, as her energy reserves were depleted. But Emil interrupted their romance to remind them of the still enraged monster he was fighting alone. He tried to protect Lid from an attack by creating a barrier, but the creature cut through it and exposed her mini melons. Upon seeing her scar, some of Hayato's memories suddenly returned, and he remembered that Emil was Emil, the girl from his past. He saved her and told her to get Lid, but then he was thrown against the building. Before this savage could attack Emil, its arm was cut off when Hayato entered beast mode again. Emil tried to stop him from going berserk, but he had already crossed that line and began trying to slash the beast until it pushed him back. He charged his sword for a plasma shot, but it grazed the monster's shoulder and was deflected towards Erica. Claire saved her from the blast, but while Erica felt her love zones tingling, Hayato was losing control. The next moment, Emil kissed him, bringing him back to sanity before telling him to focus on attacking the core. When the creature began charging again, Hayato transformed his sword into a plasma energy katana and cut the beast in half before deactivating the full armament and falling into Emil's arms. Claire then appeared and demanded an explanation for Emil's sudden transformation before they boarded the plane back to the academy. Hayato met with Karen after returning to tell her everything and gave her the usual kiss before heading back to his dorm to talk with Emil. She told him about the event from her past where she was attacked and infected by the savage virus, and he tried to suck it out, which caused him to become infected too. Although most people could never recover from it, those like him who managed to recall variants and had incredibly high compatibility scores of 100. Emile told him she had been working with Charlotte to track him down since the event and pretended to be a boy when enrolling so they could room together. He then asked about the gaps in his memory, and she explained it was a side effect of the virus, taking over whenever his life was in danger. When she started thanking him for saving her back then, he stood up to hide his excitement, and she tried to follow him, but then he collapsed and held her breast for support. Seeing it was probably an effect of the virus activating, she started using her saliva to improve him. After she explained she was basically giving him an antivirus, they were about to continue. But then Claire entered to remind Emile of the orders for her to stay in another room and found her mounted on top of him. Hayato stood up to explain, but tripped over Emile and somehow ended up kissing Claire while handling her breasts. After pulling away and apologizing, she could no longer scold him, and Emile demanded to know why. She then crawled over to Hayato to get another kiss and ended up in an argument about kissing rights that woke up the entire dorm. Later that night, Sakura was bathing while her manager made a call for some special arrangements before her next concert. In the training arena, weeks later, Hayato and Emile were fighting against Reitia and Fritz. After one of Fritz's explosions gave them an opening, Hayato advanced for a surprise attack, but Fritz was waiting with an arm cannon. The danger began to activate Hayato's curse, but he began to gain control over it and used it at the last moment to slam Fritz against the wall. After he admitted defeat, Hayato took a deep breath to control the curse, and the girls were going crazy seeing him. After Emile ran over to praise him for gaining control over the curse, Fritz and Reitia expressed their disappointment at still not being good enough to participate in the selections. They were trying to get them to see the bright side when Erika interrupted to tell Hayato to report to Claire's office. Moments later in the office, she told him that Sakura had personally requested him to be her bodyguard for her performance on the island that weekend. Erika then told him that the savages were probably still around and showed a clip to show that they had only defeated 3 of the 7 that had fallen. Recognizing the danger the other 4 could pose to the island, he accepted the mission and made a special request. Karen was practicing her readings later when he showed up and had to ask her to turn it down, as the news got her too excited. She was happy for him and wished she could see Sakura too. Then he said they had also made special arrangements for her to go to the concert. Upon hearing that, she decided Clare had passed the test, but then she told him to avoid women, as her fortune-telling skills predicted a bad experience with them. That weekend, he woke up with Emile in his bed again, and she immediately tried to schedule a date, hoping he was free that morning. Unfortunately, he had to break her heart, as the mission was scheduled for that morning. So she pouted for a moment and wished him luck. Later, he was with Lid at the airport getting the final instructions and ensuring his equipment was working properly before Sakura's plane landed. After greeting each other, they went through the airport, where adoring fans were causing a stampede just to see her. In the car, shortly after, she caught him looking and asked if he was also a fan of her music, but he explained he mostly listened to Eminem. He tried to talk about Karen, but ended up talking nonsense and made her laugh while Lid could see his aura fading. After arriving at the hotel, he opened the door and she had to remind him of his job to check and ensure it was safe. He told her it was his first day on the job before making sure the room was clear and helping with her bags as she got settled. The next moment, she asked if he wanted to get married and showed a deleted clip of him taking down a savage during the last mission. Apparently, she had become obsessed with him after seeing his strength. That's why she made the request for him to be her bodyguard. The marriage proposal shocked her and she realized there were other concerns on his mind. So she gave him the full picture. They would basically become a power couple that would dominate the world and disappear to spend the rest of their days in rich isolation. He kept trying to talk to her, but she was too involved in explaining her delusional life story until he suddenly accepted everything she said. He then pinned her against the wall and leaned in for a kiss to seal the deal, but she got cold feet and ran to the bathroom. He was listening to her voice shortly after, as she asked for a recorder to save her new lyrics. He was trying to clean up after her when she came out to ask for the recorder and gave him a little peek at her assets. She tried to go back, but then tripped on the soap, and he immediately rushed to ensure she hadn't cracked her skull. After seeing her soaped up, he fought his demons while handing over the recorder and went to control his excitement. Moments later, she came out and asked him to rate her outfits. But after he rated them, with absolutely no trace of risk, she told him to up his game. He spent the rest of the day watching her be a star, and at the end praised her for being so down-to-earth in how she handled the events. After checking with Suful to make sure she had nothing else scheduled, she told him to show her the concert venue. She got there shortly after and tried to talk to him, but her plot had deeply fried his brain cells and affected his ability to speak properly. She then made him watch as she activated her 100 and took off. At that moment, Charlotte appeared with Minnie and explained that they had been called in to help, as Sakura was going to perform with her 100. She explained that Sakura had the ability to create a space where she could make illusions while flying and singing. Sufal then told him that Char had actually saved Sakura's life in the past, but she viewed it as a normal day's work. When she came back and asked what he thought, his neurons were functional enough for him to give her a proper compliment. Before sunset, he called Clare to say he was out until noon the next day, and she asked to meet him the next morning. After returning to the dorm and not seeing anyone, he decided to enter the bath. But then he saw Emile and tried to leave. She asked to share, so he entered and turned his back to hide his excitement. Upon hearing him call Sakura by her first name, she made him give her a special name and told him to look at her scar. As she explained how it was almost fully healed, his eyes were on other things. Then she averted them as if she didn't want him to look from the start. When he invited her to go out with him on the island, after his meeting with Clare, she got excited and ended up pushing him into the water, where his hands found her breast again. As Sakura said a prayer for her concert later that night, a group of variants eliminated a savage while making their own plans for the concert. The next day, Sakura had turned her room into an inspiring mess and was reminiscing about the early years of learning music with her mother. Hayato was at Clare's summer house that morning, trying to keep his demons under control while Erika applied sunscreen to his body. Seeing his struggles, Clare decided to give him a peek and didn't hear Erika saying her breasts were on display until it was too late, as he had already seen every inch of her gravity-defying breasts. As she screamed in shame, Lid jumped out of the pool and ran over to get the memories of Clare's breasts out of Hayato's head. After she tripped, she was trying to find him, but then Clare pointed him out and she realized he was smelling her private part. She popped his balls as punishment, and when Chris got there, Hayato was halfway to the spiritual realm. Moments later, Clare told him about the theft of the 100 stones that Sakura had planned to use during the last concert. It happened during the savage attack, but they had just received the information. So she told him to keep an eye out, as the stones were very valuable, which meant the culprits were probably planning to strike again. With the official business settled, Clare told him something more important that needed his urgent attention and demanded a swimming race while Chris brought the swim trunks they had specially prepared for him. Moments later, Clare was on a float trying to find him and realized he had escaped. He was at the commercial district waiting for Emile, who appeared moments later and told him to treat her like a girl, since they were far enough from the academy to keep her secret. After he complimented her clothes, she thanked him and took him to change clothes. He then joined her to buy necklaces and bought one for her, which she claimed was proof that he owned her. He was about to leave when he saw Fritz with Raytia, so they hid in a fitting room to protect Emile's secret of dressing as a man. She started getting a little too comfortable with him so close to her and wanted to get straight to the point. So he reminded her of the penalty of imprisonment for public indecency. They were at a park shortly after, and he was trying to catch his breath. Then Emile went out to get drinks. He then received a call from Clare, who wanted to tell him about Sakura's sudden disappearance from her room. She had left a letter for Sufal, but with the savages still probably on the loose, they needed to find her quickly. So she told him to prepare for any sudden calls for his deployment. She was also spying on him with a camera and demanded to be taken on a shopping date. After he agreed, she could barely hide her excitement. But when Chris appeared, she returned to her standard tone and told him to be ready. He had just hung up and was thinking about Sakura when she picked up the phone and said she was looking for him. After explaining that she had put a GPS tracker on his phone, they headed out and Emile returned seconds later with the drinks. He was already in the car by that time and sent her a message explaining things before taking Sakura's phone to tell Sufal not to worry. Clare heard about this moments later and began to realize she had to do more than shake her breast to make Hayato hers. Sakura took Hayato to the island's Grand Canyon and said it was because she had childhood memories there with her mother. She thanked him for saving the island again, and they spent the rest of the morning talking about their childhood memories while looking at the canyon. When he mentioned Karen's name during the conversation, she was shocked and asked if they were the siblings in the shelter during the second savage attack. She sang for them back then, and although she didn't remember his name, his compliment about her singing was what made her focus on becoming an idol. She then told him that her distant father took her away soon after that, but she fell ill and lost her voice due to an infection from an unknown virus like Karen. Her then father sold her to a research facility in Wasland. There, she and a few other children were injected with an antiviral made from savage fluid under the orders of Vitali, the lab director. While she improved and regained her voice, most of the children weren't so lucky. Those like her who survived then became test subjects and continued to receive injections while Vitali aimed to create slayers artificially. Most of the children started to become unstable, but then she realized her voice calmed them and used it to help them. Despite this, all the children slowly succumbed to the infection until Sufal found her one day and took her away. Upon hearing this, he explained that he was also a variant like her. She began to piece together the details of their extremely traumatic childhood to make them seem like soulmates. The stories gave her inspiration for a Taylor Swift-style album. Then she told him to grab the bags and they caught the bus to return. After sunset, they were still on the road and she went to tell him something. But then the bus crashed and a savage appeared. It used a blast to knock the bus over and prepared to send the lovebirds to the afterlife. Moments later, Hayato was fighting the savage alone, while Sakura and the other passengers watched from a safe distance. By that time, Clare and the girls had arrived at the control room, where Kryas briefed them on the situation and made a request for nearby hunters to go to Hayato's location. Hayato managed to block the savage's attacks, but its strength forced him back. When it started charging its mouth cannon, he prepared to face it, but then Sakura ran over and activated her 100 to block the blast. With that, he energized his sword and moved in to attack the savage's core, forcing his blade into its skull until the core exploded. After the savage fell, Sakura jumped on him and started declaring her love again while the passengers watched. The next moment, a larger savage appeared and began preparing for an attack. Sakura activated the shield again, but the blast was too strong and pushed her back into his arms. Before it could attack again, it took a missile to the face and Hayato saw Fritz, who had appeared with Reitia to give him support. After her attack took out the savage's legs, its arm was cut off by Emil, who had also appeared to help. Before he could finish thanking her, she put herself between him and Sakura and said they should focus on the fight. The savage began to get up again. Then Reitia advanced with another sonic punch that pushed it enough for Emil to tear off the second arm and leave it exposed to a missile shot from Fritz to the face. Reitia tried to use a flying kick to hit the core, but couldn't. Then Emil tried to use his arrow, but the savage blocked it and finished regenerating its arms. After Emil explained its abilities to Hayato, she prepared to take the arms off again and told Hayato to prepare for the final blow. He checked with Sakura to make sure she would be okay alone and almost had his head cut off by Emil, who was getting suspicious of his relationship with her. Fritz interrupted the interrogation to remind them of the regenerative death machine they had to face and ran to start the second attack. After Reitia used a nasty hook to dislocate its jaw, Emil tore its arms off again and Hayato jumped to finish it, but was slapped away in midair. Before they could comprehend the regeneration speed, it prepared for an attack, but when Sakura told it to stop, it reacted to her voice. Hayato took advantage of the opening to advance for another attempt, but then one of the variants from the previous night appeared and kicked him against a wall. Sakura was trying to wake him when another variant appeared and scanned his sword before creating a replica. When the savage fired an energy blast, the chainsaw-toothed man deflected it, and the third variant blocked so it wouldn't hit the civilians before the second one invaded its core and used a command to explode it. As Nessat continued to drain the savage's fluids, Reitia told her to stop and ran to stop her, but was knocked out by a frisbee. Fritz tried to hit her with a missile shot, but was also taken down. Then Emil powered up to handle the situation, and Hayato advanced to block Kroven's attack. He remembered what Clare said about the thieves from the last concert, but before he could ask, Kroven powered up and tripled his speed for an even stronger attack that pushed Hayato to the ground. Emil got distracted and one of her blades was knocked away. But before Kroven could hit her, she transformed the blade into a blaster and shot him before sending another shot at Kroven. After he blocked, Nessat finished taking the savage's core and sensed reinforcements arriving. So she threw half to Kroven and he said something about Italy before they left. Moments later, the rescue team arrived and soon after they went to see Clare and the others, who explained that Kroven's squad was a hunter unit working for an illegal organization to collect savage cores. Charlotte then explained that the cores had the same molecular structure as the stones used to activate their 100. Clare was against telling him about it, but Charlotte had already told him everything and finished by explaining that savage cores were capable of tripling a country's forces, which was why poachers like Kroven's squad were being sent to get them. With that said, Hayato wanted to know how Fritz got there with Reitia, and Emil told him it was she who summoned him after receiving the reinforcement request. Clare was also against sending regular students, but since they both came out with their organs intact, she decided to consider their application to participate in the selections. Later, Hayato went out with Emil while Sakura was at the concert venue with Sufel. After the final rehearsal, Hayato was with Karen just after getting cheerleading lessons before the concert when he received a message from Sakura and went to meet her at the beach. After he told her about Karen's addiction to her songs, she told him that her fans weren't actually only interested in her singing. Many people were infected with a savage virus, and it made it easier for her to connect with their hearts as a variant. So she had always thought they only loved her because she was discreetly manipulating them to like her music. He tried to make her feel better about being a brain-hacking Taylor Swift, but she reminded him of the savage's reaction to her voice, which reminded her of the truth. He then used the time from their past when he complimented her voice before she became a variant to make her feel better, and she promised to do her best at the concert. The following night, she used her 100 to put on the best show her fans had ever seen, and Karen couldn't get enough of it. She then sang the song from that day at the shelter, and Karen remembered who she was while Sufel and Charlotte watched like starstruck teenagers. People from all over the world, as well as Clare and the girls, watched her performance, and even Liza fell in love with her voice as she finally embraced her powers and gave everyone a show to remember. The next day, everyone was at the airport watching as she signed an autograph for Karen while they talked about that day and promised to sing together someday. Sufel talked with Charlotte about Sakura's abilities, and she promised to investigate. She then said goodbye to Hayato and pulled him in for a kiss that shocked the rest of them before boarding the plane, promising to return soon. Days later, Hayato woke up in his bed and found her sitting on his sword. After insisting to find out why she was back already, Clare appeared and demanded answers. Then she clung to him for safety, just before Emil also entered and ended up trying to tear his arm off. And everyone fought over a piece of his magnum sausage. Weeks later, Hayato was on a beach far from the academy with a gang. Sakura appeared and asked what he thought of her swimsuit, but his focus was mainly on Maharu, who came to look after Karen with her gravity-defying mommy milkers. Sakura pulled his attention by pressing his arm between her medium-sized breasts, and Emil, who barely had any melons to show, tried to stop her. After giving Emil a job she could do to compensate for her lack of estrogen, Sakura dragged him into the water to play while Emil watched and cursed her mother for passing on the wrong genes. Clare was relaxing in the shade with the girls when Emil saw her mega melons on display and accused her of trying to mess with Hayato's head. As the others enjoyed the water, Sakura decided to prepare lunch and gave him a good look at her buns as she walked away. She was with Emil moments later, explaining how she had entered the academy to become Hayato's bride. When Emil promised to stop her, Sakura demanded to know why she was obsessed with Hayato. Despite being a boy, Emil was still keeping her true identity a secret from all of them and said they were simply childhood friends. They then started an argument about which relationship held more importance, until Karen used the sister argument to dominate the challenge. After everyone had lunch, Fritz invited them for a volleyball match. Reitia started the game, but her serve almost took out Hayato's sausage, and Emil immediately got angry at her for trying to take the sausage she was trying to devour. As they began using their powers to play, Erica was about to have a lot of fun with Clare's bread loaves and rice cakes. After Lid grabbed and started oiling Clare's drumsticks, Erica tried to rub more than her until Clare told them to stop. She was trying to wrap up her melons when Hayato crashed into her while trying to get the ball. For some reason, he couldn't get his face off her melons and kept struggling until a helicopter from Warlawn headquarters appeared. The blonde Prince Charming who stole her ex appeared, and they realized he was Judel, Clare's older brother and the CEO of Warlawn. After complimenting her swimsuit, he introduced himself to Hayato before saying something about him possessing divine blood. He also praised the others for the recent missions and wished him luck before taking Clare back to the academy. Days later, Hayato was walking with Emil when they received a message from Clare and went to the council office, where she explained that an anti-savage team was being formed and that they were to join the team. Fritz and Reitia were confused about why they had also been called. Then she told them that their request to participate in the selections had been accepted and that they would also be joining the mission. They had just left the office and were discussing a training session when Judel asked for a moment of Hayato's time. On the elevator ride down, he asked if Hayato knew about the Academy's power source, and he said it was a reactor. But Judel said that was just a cover story. After arriving at the secret floor, Judel explained that the academy needed more power than a reactor could provide before typing a password and opening a room, where he saw a glowing cocoon. When he approached and realized there was a girl inside, Judel explained that she was the one who provided power for the entire academy and was actually Liza, the first Slayer and man-made variant. The next revelation was that Liza was actually his and Claire's little sister. At that moment, Clare appeared and pointed a Glock at his face, while demanding to know why he brought Hayato to see Liza. He said that Hayato had the potential to become one of the top Slayers and as such deserved to know the truth about Liza. He also talked about the divine blood he mentioned on the beach, which he claimed was the answer to awakening Liza. After suggesting the idea that he might possibly have to kiss her to bring her out of her deep sleep, he told him to try releasing some of his energy into the cocoon. And although it made the cocoon glow, the release wasn't enough to wake her. Judel told him about Vitali, the leader of the illegal hunter organization, with whom he apparently had a history and planned to capture. Claire tried to ask more about it, but then he changed the subject and suggested bringing Hayato to the family house for dinner so they could discuss marriage plans between him and Claire. After he left, they had a very awkward elevator ride back, and she told him to keep everything they had shown him a secret before leaving. On a plane, shortly after they were briefed on the mission with a map showing signs of activity from 50 savages near the city where Lou was born, Claire told him to wait for the Krovan team and explained that Judel was behind them being assigned to the mission since they had fought Krovan before. After arriving at the base, they were trying to enter the camp when someone ambushed Emile and attacked her with a hug while calling her princess and trying to tear her clothes off. After pulling her to the side, Hayato tried to talk to Claudia, but she told him to shut up, you patriarchal, so she could talk to Emile. Emile then told her to try again. So she formally introduced herself as a childhood friend of hers from Gutenberg and left him on read, while immediately going back to chatting with Emile. When she kept calling her princess, Hayato asked about it and she finally revealed the secret she had been keeping from him. Emile lied about her surname when they first met to hide the fact that she was actually the third princess of Gutenberg. After apologizing for lying to him, Claudia asked when she planned to return home, and she said she never planned to return to life as royalty. Daily near-death experiences while trying to be the top bandit in Hayato's harem made much more sense to her. And Claudia experienced true terror for the first time upon hearing the explanation. After running to Hayato, Claudia lost control and decided to challenge Hayato to a duel over Emile. He thought she was bluffing, but moments later, he was in a dojo with a wooden sword, while she held a mace with nothing but bloodlust in her eyes. As soon as they finished discussing the rules, Emile wished him luck and the dojo attendant signaled to start. After he blocked her first strike, she was trying to get Emile to watch her, but upon seeing that Emile was cheering for him, she decided to get serious and kept trying to take his head off while verbally abusing him at the same time. She then took a step back and started launching tornadoes to affect his vision while he focused on her chakra. When the mace came through the tornadoes, he sliced it and sent it flying towards her skull. The dojo attendant gave the victory to him and Emile excitedly hugged him, but then Claudia got up again and kept trying to get more, until Emile told her she would never return to Gutenberg. After another tear-filled elimination, she vowed to get revenge on Hayato and ran off. Later that night, Hayato was walking through the town with Emile, talking about her being a princess, while Krovan and his team followed him. The next day, they received the final briefing on the mission and the team assignments. Emile wasn't too thrilled about having Claudia on the same team, but was excited to keep trying to get her back to Gutenberg and challenge Hayato to another skill competition on the battlefield. Realizing her attachment issues, Claire had to explain that being an obsessed psychopath could ruin their mission and offered a handshake to make sure she still had enough brain cells to understand what she was saying. After Fritz came with the girls to see if he could get more women on his team, Lou said the helicopters were activated and Claire thanked her for the support. Moments later, they were in the forest, where Claire started the mission by smoking the first savage they saw. Hayato and Emile wanted to take down the second one, but Claudia charged ahead, activated her 100 and used the mace to expose its core and rearrange its guts. She then gave Emile the chance to use her axe to blow up the core. After it fell, Claudia jumped on Emile before explaining that she was better than Hayato, and Erica did a quick scan that showed there were no hunters in the area except for the two they had taken down. While Claire discussed the change of location, Hayato was spying and Krovan's squad was on higher ground watching them. On the other side of the forest, Raytia was popping heads with Alien, while Fritz watched as a proud mentor. Later, Hayato's team was back at camp, and Claudia started portraying him as dead weight so Emile would stop being obsessed. After Hayato accepted being dead weight to let them enjoy the spotlight, Emil found a new reason to love him even more, and Claudia told them to stop the Sigma talk. Erica then told them to expect rain at night, and Claire hoped it would be a light drizzle. Then when night fell, she discussed the new team divisions to alternate rest hours. Emil tried to stay with Hayato, but she immediately separated them, and Claudia explained it was a bad idea to leave him alone with any girl before taking Emil. Emil ended up with Erica while Hayato was with Claire and Claudia, trying to get some rest. When he started looking at her mouth, she noticed his libidinous thoughts and told him to keep his hands on the futon so he wouldn't try anything strange while she slept. Hours later, the light rain stopped and Erica was giving an estimate about the savages they still had to stop. Claire then swapped with them. So Erica dragged Emil off to rest while Hayato went to watch the stars with Claire and talk about their sisters. Claudia interrupted the conversation to ask if they needed privacy to take the discussion to another level before saying she had seen something in the forest. She offered to stay behind so they could applaud each other if the weather was right, and Claire tried to hide her obvious desire for a bit of Hayato's meat. After they left, Kroven activated a signal blocker just before Claire and Hayato found a savage. She tried to warn Claudia, but couldn't, so they decided to handle it themselves. Claire fired with her 100 before activating the Buster Cannon as she advanced. After she slipped and wet her vanilla buns in a puddle, the savage tried to tear out her guts, but Hayato got there first. Moments later, she was walking through the forest with her buns looking like they had been dipped in chocolate while thanking him and decided to wash herself in the lake. Emil was freaking out back at the camp. Then Claudia called her and said Hayato was on a date with Claire to make things worse. At the lake, Claire turned a simple wash into a naked dip, and Hayato was finding it hard to control his demons. As Claire explained how her breasts felt good in the water, Claudia was telling Emil to come home with her, but she still refused and said she was ready to go to war for Hayato's weapon. Back at the lake, the duo had progressed to a deep conversation about the effect of Hayato's variant powers, and Claire got emotional remembering that Liza had the same problem. Liza was injected with savage fluids before she was even born, and their mother was the psychopath who suggested the experiment to turn them into weapons. One day in the past, Claire got trapped during a fight with a savage, but before it could get her, Liza released an insane energy blast to save her and ended up in a coma. Claire told him she had become a tool since then, and that was why she became the Academy's captain to protect Liza. After telling the story, she asked if he thought less of her for overdoing it all the time, when all she really wanted was to protect Liza. He then said he only entered the Academy for Karen and that he would keep fighting for her to get treated, and Claire started thinking about doing a workout with him in the water. After she stood up, an emergency call came in, and he was trying to answer it when she ran and crashed into him. His hand ended up on her breasts, and he gave a slight squeeze before a brief moment of silence, until her neurons reactivated and she jumped away from him. After handing her her suit, he stepped away to answer the call and heard that a group of hunters was taking out their teams. Claire suspected it was Kroven's team, and then they saw a flare from Fritz, so she told him to return to the camp while she planned to help Fritz's team. After Fritz told Nakri that reinforcements were coming, she knocked him out while Kroven told Lid to retreat, but she refused, so Kroven activated variant mode and took her down, but couldn't deliver the final blow because a plasma beam from Erica stopped him. She apologized to Lid for being late before offering Kroven a deal guaranteeing his team's safety in exchange for information about a tally. Nakri tried to attack her, so she gave her a sample of her true power and offered them another chance to accept the deal. At that moment, it started raining again, and he told the girls their lucky charms were working. Nessat used her cybernetic eyes and the weapons she created to blast Claire's cannons, but she still had 2 left and fire at Kroven, who survived the explosion and said the rain had weakened Claire's shot. Then she tried to use her Buster Cannon, but he was too fast and took her down before she could hit him. When he was about to deliver the final blow, he was pushed back and bound by Erica's chains. Hayato and the girls also appeared and captured Nessat and Nakri, so Claire regained her courage and told him to surrender. Kroven then told her to kiss his chocolate buns and freed himself from the chains before the girls also broke free. Nessat immediately duplicated Claire's cannons and attacked Claudia, while Kroven tried to attack Claire again and ended up in a testosterone-fueled battle against Hayato. Nakri tried to attack Emil, but she used her blades to pin her to the rock and told her to surrender, but Nakri said she would rather die, so Emil dropped the weapons and used a hook to literally throw her back. Nessat took over with her cannons, but Emil easily dodged the shots before destroying the cannons and making them explode in her face. Nessat tried to use her powers again, so Emil threatened to gouge her eye out and started acting like a good cop, telling her to use her eyes to watch 90 recaps. Hearing her Justice Lady speech, Kroven got angry and tried to take his anger out on Hayato, but could barely land any hits as Hayato's defense was impenetrable. As he started losing control during the attack, Hayato began seeing memories from his past. Kroven and Nesat were slaves in Oman years ago, until the day they decided to run away together. And they were barely managing to cross the desert when Nesat tripped and something got stuck in her eye. Soon after they found Vitali, who offered to restore her vision with a special power from savage fluids, which he said would give them freedom. Hayato then tried to calm him down and began powering up while also remembering his own life and the people he was fighting for. He activated his full-body armament and used his power to launch a plasma slash at Kroven, but he blocked the damage and advanced to counterattack. Another slash from Hayato worked and took him down, but he still got up and began charging himself with all the variant power he had left. After attacking Hayato and being repelled again, he vomited part of his guts, and Clare told him to calm down. The next moment, they heard a sound and saw a savage emerge from the water before growing wings and charging a mouth cannon to fire at one of the team camps. After it began charging again, Clare was trying to figure out the next move when she saw a bag with hundreds that Kroven had thrown to her and heard his proposal for a truce. In return, he wanted to eliminate the savage so they could take its core. He began powering up and came close to total insanity before taking off. As soon as he hit the savage's barrier, they realized it was too strong for a single fighter and tried to tell him to stop. But he was so absorbed he didn't even hear them and kept trying to slash the barrier while ranting about how the core could finally free them. Eventually, the creature pushed him back and used its mouth cannon to launch him away. Fortunately, Hayato was fast enough to catch him when he was about to become one with nature, and he didn't expect to be saved. So Hayato told him about his mission to turn the world into a big unicorn tea party and accidentally charm Nesat. Kroven then asked for his help to protect his girls just before the savage began charging again. Claire used her buster cannon and got help from the others, but they couldn't break the barrier, so Erica suggested a combined attack with all the slayers in the area. With communication still blocked, they asked Kroven to turn off the blocker, as that was the only way they could manage it, so Nesat deactivated it. After Erica connected with other slayers, Claire asked to be connected with Charlotte, so they could calculate the strength of the blast needed to break the barrier. As soon as she succeeded, Claire notified all the other slayers and told them to get into position while Hayato would deliver the final blow. As soon as everyone started charging, the savage did the same and released a blast just before everyone fired at it. They failed to break the barrier, and Charlotte explained that some of the slayers were hit just before firing, so they no longer had enough firepower. Claire thought they had no more options, but then Charlotte gave them an alternative from Liza that involved Hayato's saliva. Realizing they were suggesting a kiss between them, so Hayato would give Claire some of his variant powers. Emil made her opposition very clear, and Hayato could barely maintain eye contact with her, so Claire told him to act like an adult, and they stepped away for the power exchange induced by the kiss. As soon as she felt his powers inside her, Claire alerted the rest to start charging again, while the creature also began preparing another attack. This time they struck first, and Claire used her powers to triple the strength of her cannon's blast until it broke the barrier. Hayato immediately took control and energized himself before charging his full armor. When the creature started attacking him, he felt he was losing control and fought with all his might until he got close enough to charge his sword before cutting off the monster's head and destroying the core. After he and the monster fell into the lake, Emil dove after him and saw him just before reaching the Mariana Trench. He had passed out and clearly needed oxygen. But Emil had the brilliant idea to steal a kiss for herself while his brain cells were drowning. At sunset, the injured hunters were recovering while Claire was with Erica, who wanted to know why Judel wanted Kroven and his girls to be taken back to the academy with them. Later, at the academy hospital, Charlotte told Emil that Hayato would wake up eventually before leaving, and Emil tried to talk to him before leaning in for another kiss. The next moment, Karen and Sakura entered and wanted to know what she was doing, since she was still pretending to be a boy. She told them there was a bug on his face, and Karen believed it, but Sakura's brain cells had matured enough to smell a lie. At that moment, Hayato woke up and saved her from any further interrogation. Meanwhile, Vitali had just realized that Kroven and the girls weren't coming back, so she decided to start her plans. Back in the forest the previous night, Nesat had her mini cakes scattered on the ground, and her awakened mage partner tried to defend her. She had just realized the savage didn't have a core when she was hit by sound waves and was knocked out by Vitali. In Claire's office later, Emil wanted to give her some of the snacks she picked up on the way back, but Charlotte was devouring them like a vacuum cleaner. Hayato then asked about the Kroven team, and Claire said they were relaxing in an underground facility under surveillance. She then told him they had found Vitali's lab, but she had already left the location when the troops arrived there. Charlotte said their efforts to analyze the data found in the lab were useless, as most of the important data had already been erased. Claire then told him about the upcoming Academy Festival, where they plan to have people from various global branches as security to avoid surprises from Vitaly. Sakura revealed she would perform at the festival and had a special surprise planned for Hayato. Erika then gave them the details of the preparations being made and told them to be careful with the cleaning robots scattered through the halls. On the runway, shortly after, they went to welcome Claudia, who immediately jumped and tried to kiss Emile until she almost tore her face in half. Wendy came out after her and met with Fritz and Raytia, who were wondering what happened to him. She said she hadn't seen him since the mission, so they offered to help with anything she needed. While the students spent the rest of the day preparing for the festival, Hayato and the others received their tasks from Clare. That night, he had just checked into the hospital when he saw Sakura and followed her until she entered Karen's room. When he got there, he saw an entire studio set up from her room and found out that Karen would sing at the festival. This was the surprise Sakura was talking about, but he was worried about her health affecting it. She then showed him a kind of divine letter, which Sakura explained would help her move freely without the wheelchair. He was shocked to hear she could use a 100, so Charlotte explained that they were running tests and realized she had a good enough compatibility score. After Sakura told him about the amount of work they were doing, Karen started to get nervous. So he gave a motivational speech to cheer her up, and Sakura kicked him out so they could continue practicing. The next day, Claire announced the start of the festival, and while students and local residents crowded in to start having fun, Claudia was on the runway freaking out, as she had to stay there for the entire event as security. Maymay's breasts made it difficult for Kroven to hear what she was saying about the festival food before leaving. He was getting bored of being away from civilization, but Nakri was starting to get irritated and began saying the hunters were trying to trick them by taking their hundreds. He accepted her point, but also remembered they left Nesat's 100 so she wouldn't have to see with only one eye, while also being as weak as Sakura. Hayato and Emile were on their break later, and he was trying to get her to stop being clingy when they heard someone calling them and started to freak out. It was Raytia and Erika dressed as maids for the festival cafe. Erika tried to explain the outfit to them, but Emile took a picture to ensure she could never get rid of the allegations and took a few more as she tried to get the phone. After a small army of maids welcomed them, Emile noticed his cult-like look and wished she could have worn a maid outfit too. Erika then offered to grant her wish and handed her over to the girls for a transformation. Hayato reminded Erika of the need to keep Emile's true identity a secret, but then Erika started talking crazy as she explained it was her way of getting revenge. The next moment, they brought Emile back with a new outfit, and she immediately started groping the fake breast she said they had added to the costume. Suddenly, everyone started shouting for him to grab her breasts, and he ended up agreeing, thinking he would only feel whatever they had put inside. When his lack of courage made everything take a bit too long, they pushed him, and he collided with her. After giving a quick squeeze to the breast and hearing her making happy noises, she told him that everything he was holding was real. At that moment, they were covered in flashes, and the rest of the girls took pictures of them to share with the school. For some reason, Emile did not oppose the idea of their love story dominating the academy and began trying to get a kiss to make the story even more legitimate. He tried to get help from Erika, but she had already switched to work mode and left with Raytia. Judel arrived at the festival later, and as the festival goers headed to the concert venue, Hayato went to see Karen. He complimented her outfit and made her shy, so she made him give her a kiss, but then Sakura entered with Sufel, so he stopped to protect his aura points. After they explained the performance routine again to make sure she was ready, Judel entered to wish Sakura good luck before also telling Karen to break what was left of her legs. Moments later, Sakura started the concert and began with a performance that dominated the entire festival. As this was happening, Wendy swapped places with a guy at the entry point to let Vitaly in and helped her gain access to the facility before using her aura to put her to sleep. Back at the concert, Sakura finished the first song and told them a bit about Karen's influence on her career before bringing her on stage. Karen initially fumbled her opening speech and made Hayato wish he could disappear, but with Sakura's help, she calmed her nerves and told him all about her dream to spread love. She then activated her 100 and left Hayato speechless, as it turned her into a perfect 10 cat girl. While Karen was living every otaku's dream, Vitaly was using her cigarette to mess with an innocent cleaning robot. After the girls gave the fans what they wanted, Claire was in the control room watching with Liza, who also enjoyed the show. At that moment, Chris told her about a team member they found unconscious somewhere in the facility. She immediately pulled up the footage of the officers helping Wendy up and listened as they explained she had amnesia and couldn't remember anything except the red savage that had no core. At the festival, nothing had happened yet, and Vitaly was enjoying the show with a necktie stuck between her huge breasts, which would explain why she was so feared. Noah and Lou had just gotten a break and wanted to visit the stalls, but then everyone saw a mechanical be hovering a few feet from them. Erika and Raytia hoped it belonged to a horror show geek, But after failing to identify an owner, they decided to handle it themselves. Erica activated her 100 and wrapped it up, but then it exploded, and they saw another one heading towards a power station, so Raitia powered up and used her explosive spheres to destroy it. The next moment, explosions started occurring all over the festival, so they told Noah and Lou to lead the people to safety. In the control room, Clare and Lid struggled to control the situation, as various power stations were being destroyed. As they began switching to the emergency power systems, Lid decided to head out and Clare started thinking about possible causes. At that moment, Noah and Lou called to show her a clip of one of the cleaning robots transforming into the explosive bees. She was telling Chris to shut down or destroy any he could still access when Erica called and showed 100 stones found at the explosion site. Upon seeing them, she started putting the pieces together and Charlotte appeared after also realizing Vitaly was probably behind it all. Claire then told Chris to suspend the festival and issue evacuation orders, as well as a call for available slayers to mobilize. Back at the concert, Sakura was still entertaining the fans with Karen when Sufal alerted her. At that moment, the entire facility began shaking from the explosions, and people started to worry. So she promised to help them get to safety and kept them calm. Back in the control room, Charlotte displayed the security camera footage from when Vitaly entered and Claire assumed it was because of Kroven's team. Then she requested extra security and asked for Hayato and Emil. At the festival, Erica, Raitia, and the other slayers eliminated the bees in their area while evacuating civilians, and Fritz cleared the ones in his area with Lid's help. As this was happening, one of the bees entered the Academy's data center and began corrupting the entire network. Meanwhile, on the deck, Claudia was still lamenting not being able to enjoy the festival when she saw an aircraft flying towards them. After it crashed on the deck, Claire wanted to know why the radars weren't giving the usual signals. So the cadets in the control room checked and found the network sessions being damaged by the bee in the data center. The next moment, savages started coming out of the wreckage, and after they got up, Claudia and the others saw that they had no core. After Claire saw, they activated the deck's deterrent systems, but the bullets had no effect. Then Claudia advanced while the other slayers defended against the explosions. Seeing the chaos unfold, Charlotte realized the replicants were Vitaly's creations and the reason she was collecting savage cores. Claire immediately called Lid and Erica to give them orders on how to handle the situation. Hayato and Emil appeared the next moment, so Claire gave them a quick summary of the situation and told them to go ensure Kroven's team didn't fall back under Vitaly's custody. The next moment, the radar detected another plane coming from above, and the deterrent system immediately started firing. After a few missiles destroyed its engines, it crashed right on top of the concert, and Sakura began having difficulty keeping people calm with Karen. As Claire was telling Hayato and Emil about the replicants, they came out of the wreckage and began trying to slash the barrier. The barrier's strength began to fall. So Claire decided to go out alone and told Chris to take care of things, but he stopped her and explained that she was the most suitable to keep the slayers in order from the control room. Hayato decided to handle it with Emil, and Liza had the same idea, but was still skeptical. Then Hayato reminded her of the conversation they had at the lake, and she agreed. Emil wanted to know about which lake incident they were talking about. So Claire changed the subject and made them promise to return safely, while Chris sent a message for Mei Mei to handle Kroven's team. At that moment, Kroven was feeling the explosions and was curious about the situation, but Nakri was already sure it was Vitaly. Nesat reminded them there was a festival going on, and Kroven showed his disappointment at the possibility that it was Vitaly attacking random civilians because of her mission. At that moment, Vitaly entered after knocking out a guard and told him about her plan while handing over their hundreds. Nesat was excited to start blowing things up, but Kroven didn't like what she was doing and said the slayers weren't as bad as she was making them out to be. Realizing they were having doubts, Vitaly pulled out a device that scrambled their minds with sound frequencies. Outside, Lid got tired of looking for a core and started destroying the replicants while Fritz scrapped them. And Claudia finally found a way to enjoy the festival. At the concert, Sakura had finished giving words of encouragement and was praying for Hayato to appear. Fortunately, he had already arrived there with Emil. And as they advanced to stop the replicants, Mei Mei was rushing to Kroven's team. After Vitaly came out and started shooting, she dodged the bullets and kicked the gun away before taking her down. She was trying to check if they were okay when she got shot in the shoulder and fell. As Kroven and the girls were already equipped and watched while Vitaly asked if she was the robot someone named Linice had made. Mei Mei tried to stop Kroven and the girls from leaving, but then he pushed her aside and they started leaving with Vitaly. After they broke down the lower level door, Charlotte told Clare they were heading for Liza. At that moment, Clare received a call from Judel, who then told her to leave Vitaly to him and promised to resolve it before hanging up. Outside, Hayato and Emil were struggling to find a way to deal with the replicants. Meanwhile, Nakri had just stumbled into an electric trap and was knocked out. Vitaly told them to abandon her and continue, but Kroven refused to move, so she used the mind control device to force them. A bullet from Mei Mei's gun hit the remote control as she ran to save them during a shootout with Vitaly. Somehow, a next-generation military robot missed all its shots and Vitaly managed to hit her in the thigh before escaping. Mei Mei tried to check on Kroven, but he was more worried about her broken wires, so she said she would call for reinforcements. At that moment, Vitaly had already reached Liza, but Judel was also there waiting for her. She immediately pointed a gun at him and said she had planned the entire attack as revenge for him abandoning her right after stuffing his sausage in her vanilla buns. To start her revenge plans, she had the replicants activate a sonic wave blast that affected Hayato and all the other hunters in the facility. Judel praised her genius and asked if she wanted to work with him again, but then she got angry and refused to fall for his risk before shooting at Liza. After emptying the magazine and still not penetrating, she was shocked to realize Liza was awake. She demanded to know how. Then he explained that she had reacted to Sakura's singing and revealed that her little attack was part of his plan to make Liza wake up. She thought he was talking nonsense until he said she had always been his puppet. She tried to finish him out of anger, but the bullet was blocked by Liza, so she kept shooting, hoping one would get through until she ran out of bullets. The next moment, her expression changed when Judel landed his first and only shot. Before telling her how useful she had been for his plan, she tried to ask for one last kiss, but all she got was a look at his perfect jawline before he stood up and told Liza she could go back to sleep. Outside, Emil had just been knocked out by the replicants. Then Hayato took over and kept trying to take them down until he too was thrown like a bag of chips. Sakura and Karen were still fighting the debilitating sonic waves when they suddenly heard a voice and saw Liza, who told them they could use their music to cancel the effects of the sonic waves. After giving Karen a kiss and telling her she could stand up, she left, and they activated their hundreds before starting the concert and canceling the sonic waves. After everyone started to regain their strength, Hayato got up and prepared before setting off to activate his full-body armament. With all his energy focused on a final attack, he charged forward and pressed his sword into the replicant until he cut it through the head and passed out as it crashed into the academy. Claire immediately asked for Hayato's stats. Then Chris showed him passed out on the barrier and she thought it was over, but then the sensors started going off and he told her the replicant was reactivating. It immediately charged what was left of its head to blow up everything in sight, but the blast was dispersed into the ocean by Kroven and the girls before the replicant fell from the edge. After getting up and destroying the bridge, it was about to attack Nakri, but Kroven interrupted the attack and told Nesat to take care of her while he strengthened himself and attacked the replicant. Several attacks later, the replicant released weapons that electrocuted Kroven until he was thrown aside. Claire immediately ran to help, but the replicant had already started charging again. Nesat saw only one way out. She used her ability to replicate her powers and struck a blow just as Claire arrived. Before the dust settled, she blocked a blast before seeing that Nesat had been absorbed into the replicant form it created with her powers. Charlotte contacted Claire and said Nesat was slowly reaching the point where she could blow up the entire academy. Claire then asked for a way out, and Charlotte said the only way was to end her suffering, since she had basically become the replicant's core. Hayato was lost in his thoughts until he saw Liza and remembered what was happening at the academy. She explained the current situation and told him to save Nesat by giving her a kiss to restore her energy. Nesat was already reaching the breaking point, so Claire activated the Buster Cannon to eliminate her, but then Hayato stopped her and asked for a chance to save her. Claire granted him a few minutes. Then he went down and activated his full-body armament before trying to talk to Nesat. The moment she recognized his voice and remembered a bit of their past, she started attacking, but he managed to dodge and kept talking. After dodging the next attack, he was knocked down by a rock and was about to be hit. But then Emil blocked the attack and told him to keep trying. Chris told Claire they only had 3 minutes left, so she told him to hurry up. After he reminded her of Kroven and the freedom they had always wanted, she lost control and started releasing insane amounts of energy. Hayato decided to stop talking and charged forward just as she prepared for an attack which he managed to cut through to reach her head. He then entered her mind to give one more pep talk, and this time she listened and accepted his help. When she returned to normal, Emil excitedly hugged him before Croven arrived with Nakri to thank him. And Clare, who was watching them, received a hug from Liza before she went back to sleep. That night, fireworks were launched to signal the end of the festival, and Emil took the opportunity to get the kiss she had been waiting for. After telling him she always wanted to be with him, he said he felt the same and initiated the kiss for the first time. At that moment, the rest of the group came out to see the fireworks and couldn't believe their eyes. Sakura immediately demanded explanations, but then Claudia ran over and pinned him against the railing before revealing Emil's secret while interrogating him. Seeing that the secret was finally out, Emil told them the truth about her identity. The next moment, everyone parted like the Red Sea, as Clare charged her destroyer cannon and told them to continue their love story in the afterlife, before launching them into the upper atmosphere.